The funeral hall was wrapped in quiet grief. Only the faint rustle of tissues and soft sniffles echoed through the air. A flag-draped coffin stood at the center of the room, surrounded by white lilies and fading candlelight. Inside lay Sergeant Michael Hayes, a brave firefighter who had lost his life while saving a family from a burning building. His wife, Claire, sat motionless in the front row, clutching a folded picture of her husband, while their daughter, Lily, barely 10 years old, leaned into her mother's side. But among the crowd, one figure could not sit still. Max, Michael's golden retriever, his loyal rescue partner, and closest friend. Max had been unusually restless since the morning. His tail was stiff, his ears perked, his eyes locked on the coffin, as if waiting for a command that would never come. He had worked beside Michael for years, saving countless lives together. But this was the first time he was surrounded by so many people, and yet felt completely alone. When the priest began to speak, Max whimpered softly. His nose twitched as he stepped forward, sniffing the air. Then, suddenly, a sharp bark tore through the silence. Heads turned instantly. Claire looked up, startled. The priest paused mid-sentence. One of the firefighters standing beside Max tried to calm him down. But the dog refused to stop. His barking grew more desperate, more urgent, echoing across the hall. "He's just confused," someone whispered. "He's grieving." But those who had worked with rescue dogs before knew that bark. It wasn't random. It was a signal. Something was wrong. Max's paws began scratching at the base of the coffin. His body trembled, his growls low and insistent. A few people gasped as the dog began circling the casket, nose pressed against the wood, whining. Claire's heart raced. "What's happening?" she whispered. The funeral director rushed forward, trying to guide Max away. But the dog lunged again toward the coffin, letting out a bark so loud and commanding that the priest dropped his book. Officer Ryan, Michael's best friend and firefighting partner, stepped forward. "Wait," he said firmly, raising his hand. "Let him be." Kneeling beside Max, Ryan placed a hand gently on the dog's collar. "What is it, boy?" Max's breathing was quick and shallow. He barked again, tapping his paw on the side of the coffin, then froze. His head tilted slightly, as if hearing something no one else could. Ryan leaned closer to listen, and then his face turned pale. "Did anyone hear that?" he asked. A faint, almost imperceptible sound came from inside the coffin. A soft thud, followed by the weakest of cries. Gasps erupted across the room. The widow dropped the picture from her hands, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Open it," Ryan shouted. "Now." The funeral director hesitated, but the urgency in Ryan's voice and the panic in Max's eyes were undeniable. A few men stepped forward, fumbling to lift the lid. The entire room fell silent. As the top slowly creaked open, Max leapt forward, peering inside, and there, nestled against Michael's chest beneath his folded arms, was a small, shivering kitten, barely alive. Its fur was soot, stained and damp, its tiny body pressed close, as if searching for warmth. The crowd was frozen in disbelief. Claire gasped, her hand over her mouth. What is that?" she whispered. Ryan reached in carefully, lifting the fragile creature out. "It's a kitten," he murmured. Max whimpered softly and began licking the kitten's face, whining as if trying to wake it. The room filled with stunned whispers. How could it be alive? Was it in there the whole time? Did Michael save it from the fire? And then Claire remembered something. The night before Michael died, he had called her from the fire scene. His last words had been, "It here is a tiny life here. I can't leave it behind." The truth hit her like a wave. He must have shielded it with his body. He gave it warmth, even in death. And Max? He knew. He was trying to tell them life still remained inside that coffin. Tears streamed down Claire's face as she reached out to touch the kitten's soft head. "He saved another life," she whispered brokenly. Max sat beside the coffin, his eyes soft now, tail wagging gently. His mission was complete, but no one yet understood just how deep this miracle truly went. The kitten was rushed to a nearby veterinary clinic. Everyone from the funeral followed, unable to leave without knowing if it would survive. Hours passed as the vet worked carefully, warming the tiny creature and feeding it through a dropper. Max waited outside the door the entire time, pacing, whining softly whenever he couldn't hear the kitten's faint meows. Finally, the vet emerged, holding the little one wrapped in a towel. "She's going to make it," he said, smiling through tears. It's nothing short of a miracle. The crowd cheered. But Max didn't bark this time. He simply sat down, looking toward the sky, his eyes reflecting both loss and peace. Claire bent beside him, whispering, "You knew, didn't you, boy?" Max licked her hand gently. The next morning, Claire returned home with the kitten and Max by her side. On the dining table sat Michael's firefighter gear, his helmet, gloves, and a small, charred notebook found in his jacket after the fire. She opened it slowly, her fingers trembling. Inside was a single entry written the night before the tragedy. It read, "If anything happens to me, tell Max I am proud of him. Tell Claire I couldn't walk away while something small still had a chance to live. She'll understand." Tears blurred Claire's vision as she read those words again and again. "Something small still had a chance to live," she whispered. She looked down at the kitten, curled against Max's chest on the rug. The little creature purred softly, nuzzling into the dog's fur. Max didn't move. He simply lowered his head and watched over her with the same protectiveness he once showed his partner. It was as though Michael had passed his final duty to him, to guard the life he had saved. Weeks passed. The story spread everywhere. Newspapers called it the miracle of the barking dog. People wrote letters to Claire, saying the story gave them faith again, that maybe love and loyalty didn't end with death. Every night, Claire sat on the porch with Max and the kitten she named Hope. Max would stare at the stars, tail wagging slowly, and Claire always felt that Michael was still there. In the breeze, in the quiet, and in the warmth of the small heartbeat that shouldn't have survived. One evening, Lily knelt beside Max, hugging him tightly. "Daddy didn't really leave, did he?" she asked softly. Claire smiled through tears. "No, sweetheart," she said. "He just left us a different kind of miracle." As the moonlight bathed the yard, Max lifted his head and let out one single bark, not one of alarm, but of peace. It was the sound of a soul saying, "Mission accomplished."